This video, we're going to walk through a really detailed demo of how to set up the cost modeling tool, important considerations as you're doing so, and all the way through to exporting the tool. So what you're seeing here is the cost modeling tool. This is an example, a completed example. We'll walk through how we get to this point, but in general, this is what you'll get. So in order to get to this point, if you already have an Ediphi account, that means you'll already have estimates in Ediphi. We'll walk through the whole benchmarking flow and kind of what that looks like, how that works. But in general, you'll want to basically start there, start through the benchmarking process. If you haven't uploaded any estimates into Ediphi, or if this is a brand new account for you, then please work with our go-to-market team or your contact at Ediphi. They will help you bring in some estimates, and as part of that, they'll do some associations for use groups to make sure that all your estimates are tied to use groups, which is very important for cost modeling, and I'll get into why. Also, they will work with you on unit spec associations for that use group. What that means is basically deciding for a hotel that you want to track cost per key, for an apartment, cost per bed, cost per room, and for a data center, right, cost per kilowatt, different metrics that are applicable to different uses. Let's, for this demo, assume that all of that is in. If you have questions about that process or need help through that, again, please reach out to your Ediphi contact. They can walk you through all that. So let's start from the very beginning. You just got access to this tool. Where is it? How do I access it? And let's jump all the way back to the project page. So this is the project page. We will jump into our conceptual project here, and you can see there's a new section here. So this new section is called Cost Models. It falls in line with estimates, GCGR, schedule, and contracting. This is how you will access creating new cost models as well as existing ones that you've created, and it lives within the project itself. In order to do this, though, we need to benchmark estimates. So let's go to another estimate and walk through the benchmarking process. Let's say that we want to benchmark, I don't know, let's go to this one. So we have an estimate here. If you click these three dots here on any estimate that is existing, you'll see this benchmark export button. When you click this, you'll be prompted to basically enter in various information about the project. You can add a picture, you can add details. We ask for a GMP date. You can call this GMP date, publish date, whatever you want to refer to it as, but this is really what we use in order to escalate your project costs. And you can also add any short summaries that you want, as well as reference any use group information that's on this actual project. So let's assume that we've gone through, we've done this benchmark process. In doing this, when I click save, what you'll notice is that this estimate will actually get locked. We do that in order to protect against future edits. You can always unlock it, and editing will never change the values of your created cost models. But in general, once you benchmark something, we lock it. You can always remove the benchmark or unlock it again, but that's just something that we do. Now, let's jump into actually creating the cost model. Let's actually go to this project. Okay, so I'm going to click here. This is creating a cost model. So let's call this a new cost model. And I have the opportunity here to add pictures for that cost model, and I'm going to go ahead and click create. Okay, so we just plopped you into the cost model. So now we have to select projects of like kind, right? So we give you a prompt here to start cost modeling and adding projects. So if you click add projects, this is now your selection screen. And in this selection screen, you'll be able to basically view any previously benchmarked projects. So the estimate that I was just on, where I was showing you all the different benchmarking workflows, if I had benchmarked that, that would appear in this list. If I didn't benchmark that, that will not appear in this list. We do that because we don't want, we view benchmarking as the final version of your estimate, the one that you actually want to cost model off of in the future. We don't want to cloud the selection process for projects with a ton of different a ton of different estimates that, basically create a lot of noise during the selection process. So in this screen, you'll be able to filter, you'll be able to search by projects, but also you'll be able to kind of view the project information within here. So we have things like what was the cost, some different metrics about that, use groups, how was the use group breakout, and within there, what are the different counts of the metrics that you're looking to track within that. Again, these are the unit specs that I referred to in the very beginning of this demo that the go-to-market team can help you set up. So let's make some selections. Let's do, we'll do these two, and we'll click, let's see, select that. We'll click continue. Okay, so what we've done is we've just said, select these two projects, these two estimates that we've benchmarked. Now, on those estimates, there's multiple use groups, and we need to go through and basically fill out the unit information for this current cost model that we're building out. So we have an above grade parking we have an above grade parking use group, a retail core and shell use group, site development. Again, all of these are being pulled over from the two estimates that I just selected. So you can see kind of behind this screen, I have values here for an apartment because that apartment use group was brought in as part of this estimate. But we can't calculate any values for your current project until you fill those values out. So I'm going to go through and say, I'm just going to fill in some fake numbers here. There's 0 there, and let's say that this is, 300 units, and beds, 450. And let's add parking garage information as well. Let's call it 40,000, and parking spots, sure, 500. Okay, so you would walk through this process. You would basically go through and fill out all this information. Keep an eye on the zeros here because I'll show you what happens if you don't do this. So above grade parking, for instance, we didn't fill anything out for, but we did fill things out for below grade parking. So let's click save. Okay, so you can see we've brought in values for these two use groups. We did not bring in values for the above grade parking. Why? Because we didn't fill out information for that. If I want to go back and fill information out for that, I can click on this button here, show details, and now I can fill out information for the above grade parking. So like, let's say you did have above grade parking. Let's add, 6,000 and you had 200 spots. Let's click save. So see, now we just added in that information. So you've added in this information. Where are these values coming from? So basically what you're viewing here is every row is a use group. The reason we break them out as rows is because I'll show you in a second, we have use group filtering, which allows you to basically pull out uses that are not important or applicable to the project that you currently have. So for example, retail. I don't have retail on this new cost model, right? On this project, I want to pull the retail space out. If I had maybe a gym on one apartment complex, but not on my current one that I'm cost modeling, I want to be able to pull the gym out of the cost so it doesn't inflate my cost per square foot, and in general, my total cost that I'm pulling averages for. So by filling out the information, like the square footage that was in this modal, that allows us to then look across and identify what the average is across both of these estimates. And if I expand this, you can see that, let's use this for example. We have $58 per square foot, and we have $10 cost per square foot. This is pulling an average to get you 34.8, right? That 34.8 is then multiplied by, let me open the show details modal, and let's find the apartment again, by this 500,000, right? And that is how we're getting to that $17,000 or $17 million value. If we didn't have that $500,000 cost per square foot, that 500,000 square foot number, we wouldn't be able to calculate the 17 million. So that's why in these, you'll see they're all blank. Until you actually fill those values out, then we can actually go through and calculate the average for this. Within the cost modeling tool, you'll notice you can inline edit anything. So if I click into this 34, let's say I'm pulling 34, but I actually think it's closer to about 40. I can enter 40, and that's going to update everything. It's going to take the 40 times that 500,000 square foot number, which is going to equal this. Then it's going to back calculate based on the number of apartment units that I have. So that was that unit count that I entered. So it's going to take the 20 million times that number, divided by that number, and that's going to give you the 66,000. So I'm able to swap this out. So let's say for the apartment, I actually care, instead of apartment count, let's say I want to view this by cost per bed. If I select bed, you can see the value just changed. Why did the value change? Because my cost per bed is different. And if I go to here, I have 300 apartment units, but I have 450 beds. So now we've changed that, which means these numbers will stay, but your denominator just changed. You can also calculate the other way. So let's say I wanted to change this to 45,000. That's going to back calculate the other two values, which again is going to give you the cost that you want. As part of this, we also pull in the markups. So the markups on your comparison projects, if you see this cog down here, when you click this cog, it's going to expand. This is all the individual markup line items that you had on these comparison estimates. If I open the formula cell, I'm able to edit this formula however I want, or you can leave this, but this is mainly just for a reference for when you're building out the markups on your actual cost model project that you're cost modeling right now. So this markup total down here, you can see these are dashes. It's because we don't have markup data yet, right? We can go through and add a markup and configure this however we want, right? The same formula editor that exists on the estimate now exists within cost modeling. I can create whatever markups that I see as applicable for this current project, and that will add to the cost down here for your grand total. What if I wanted to select additional projects in the future? This plus button here allows you at any time to add to the number of selected projects that you're pulling into a cost model. So if you remember, we pulled in 2 projects before. Let's say I want to pull in a third. Let's do a casino and hotel. And maybe I just want the residential portion of this, but not the actual casino. So you can see we pulled in a new use group. We pulled in gaming. We also pulled in hotel. That's a new use group, right? Let's save this. And you can see casino and hotel was just added right here. Now, if I don't want this anymore, I can go through and I can click remove. It's going to ask me, are you sure? Yes, let's remove the casino and hotel. Now I'm back to where I was with the 2 projects. Now, what if I needed more information about this project in order to be able to determine what these cost per square foot should be? If I go show details, that is going to open up a side panel. And in this side panel, I'm going to be able to go through, let me collapse this really quick. I'm going to be able to go through and basically learn what is this project? Who was the creator of this? If you need to send them an email, simply click on that and it's going to pop up their email, where you can send them an email. In a lot of the discovery calls that we did, there's a lot of communication back and forth between the estimators that used to be on this project and the ones that are currently cost modeling off of that. We give additional metrics and facts about the project here, use group information. We also display that here. You can expand this out to view these metrics and the cost per that metric. But let's say that's not enough. Let's say you need more information. Well, because Ediphi is all connected, we're able to allow you to jump directly into the estimate that you had benchmarked. So if I click in that, you'll see it takes me right to the estimate for the Stanford Tower. I can go to the detailed summary and I can dig into the nitty-gritty details of, what were the systems involved, right? What use groups were on this? What were the scopes and the bid packages? What was the breakdown of each of these scopes of work? Because that's going to help inform the numbers that I choose here, right? You can also hide values. So let me show really quick. Let's say, so this one, I'm pulling $4 a square foot for structural steel. We have $1 on this project and we have $6.85 on this project. Why, right? Why is this $6.85 and this is $1? Well, I can jump into the estimate, I can run a variance report, I can figure out why these are so different. And once I decide the number that I actually want to use, like I showed before, you can either inline edit this, or I can actually tweak these numbers. I can inline edit this value, or let's say the 6 is more applicable. The system that's used on that project is much more similar to the system that's going to be used on my current project. So let's hide this value. I don't want this factoring into my average anymore. So if I hide this, you can see my estimate or my average just changed, because now we're pulling the 685. So you're able to go through and make these adjustments. It's completely customizable for you to be able to basically mix and match whatever values that you need in order to build out your cost model. But what if there's a use group that's inflating your cost? And let me move my cursor thing up here because it's blocking. We're pulling 185 million, and maybe, I don't want above grade parking. That's pulled in by default from my comparison projects, but I don't have that on this project. Well, I can filter this out. So part of what makes Ediphi unique is we're breaking all these use groups out into different categories. And I'm able to go through and say, remove above grade parking, right? Now we just removed it, and you can see this went down to 184 million. Why? Because we pulled that cost out because it's not applicable. Maybe I don't have site. Maybe I also don't have retail. I just have apartments and I just have below grade parking. I can expand these out, and now I'm able to go through and build out my cost model purely based on the scope that is actually applicable to the cost model, to the project that I'm building out a cost model for right now. One of the other things we're allowing is grouping. So you can see within grouping, I can change this to anything. I can also add multiple layers of grouping in here. And let's say I wanted to do bid package and uniform at 1. Again, we break all this out so you're able to add as many layers as you want as part of this. Now, the final thing I'll get into here, or one of the final things, is escalation. And I know if you're still here in the video, I know it's been a big video. This is a very large tool, and it's very interconnected within Ediphi. Escalation here, we allow for escalation of location and escalation of time. Now let me explain how this works. This date here, this 2/2/2021, if you remember in the very beginning of this video, when we went through the benchmark process, as part of that benchmark process, we asked what was the GMP date, right? What is this cost good up to, right? That is this value. So this is really going to become the start date for when this project was finalized. And from there, we're going to add in years so that we get you basically up to today. So we have 2021, we're going to bump you up to 2024. And then as a user, you can go through and fill these out. The way that we actually break escalation out is we're not going to use, let's say I enter in 10% for 2021, 5%, 8%, and then for 2024, I don't know. Well, probably closer to that. Okay. For 2021, we have 10%. We're not actually going to use the entire 10% here. We're going to take that 10% and divide it by 12. So we put it in context of months. And you can see we're 2 months into the year. So we're actually going to use 10 of those 12 months within here. So actually, let's make this a little bit easier. Let's say it's 12. We're going to be applying 10%, not 12%, but 10% of this 2021 value. For 2022, you've used all 12 months, so we're going to apply 5%, 8%, and then for 2024, we're in September, so we're not going to apply the full year. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm happy to talk through that more on feedback calls, but it's hard to get into the weeds on a demo. New York to San Francisco, this is looking at the city that this project is in compared to the city that this new project that you're cost modeling off of is in. And you're able to go in and basically say, okay, it's going to be a 30% increase, give or take. And from there, we're going to apply escalation to the table. You can see previously I had 184 million. This has since gone up because the averages, this value has gone up, which means my averages have gone up, which means the numbers that we're pulling over into the cost model have gone up, which is increasing your total value. Hopefully you followed that whole flow. Now let's say I'm at the very end of my project and I want to export this. However you have the table currently configured at the time of export is what we will do. So let's collapse this, and let's say I've expanded all this. I can click in here and export this to PDF or Excel. Depending on the export that you use, we're basically going to take exactly as your table looks. So let's say I expanded escalation and I want to show my client all of the escalation values that I have. If I expand that and then I export, we're going to export the entire table with the escalation values. If I don't want to show that, I can collapse those. Maybe I don't want to show the apartments broken out, but I do want to show below grade parking. And I export now. That is going to respect whatever filtering, whatever grouping, whatever unit spec associations that you have on this project at the time of export.